Now that you've soloed at the local airport, it's time for you to fly to another airport solo and back. First, your instructor will make this journey with you, and then when you arrive back at this airport, your instructor will get out of the aircraft and allow you to go on your own. Now, things you want to consider along your journey would be how to exit and enter the traffic pattern, what altitudes you're going to fly, when are you going to make your communication calls, and anything else pertaining to the flight. Let's say, for example, that you're going to depart Greenville on runway 19 and fly over to Pickens. Because you're departing on runway 19, most likely the winds are somewhere out of the southwest, south, or southeast in order for you to depart there. So logic would tell you this airport is not far away, so most likely you would already plan on using runway 23. But along your route, you want to listen to the weather and get an update just to be sure. But most likely the control tower will tell you to depart runway 19 and proceed on course. So you would climb out to about 500 feet and then make your turn and proceed westbound to get on course. Now, as you're traveling, you want to make a call about 10 miles out, is what the FAR-AIM recommends. So that means before that, you would have to listen to the weather to get an update to know which runway you're going to land on. So at this point, maybe once you're out of the airport traffic pattern area here at Greenville downtown, you go ahead and listen to the ASOS at Pickens. And then as you're flying along, when you're 10 miles out, make a radio call there, and you realize that you are definitely going to land on runway 23. And runway 23 has left-handed pattern, so the traffic pattern would go something like this. And the FAR-AIM recommends that you enter at a 45-degree downwind at the proper altitude. So if the field elevation at Pickens is roughly 1,000 feet, then your traffic pattern should be 2,000 feet, your entrance anyways. So at this point, you may decide to kind of veer down to the south in order to make your turn back around to enter in on that 45-degree downwind. And when you're maybe around this area, when you're about 3 miles out, you would want to make an additional call to the Pickens County traffic. And then finally, as you're entering the downwind, and then each leg of the pattern as appropriate. So if you decide to go over to Pickens at 3,000 feet, at some point you need to descend down and be at this point by 2,000 feet. So it's a judgment call of when to begin your descent to arrive at the pattern altitude at the proper altitude. The FAA does not want you to descend down into the pattern and possibly, come down on another aircraft. They want you to already be at the pattern altitude as you're arriving at the traffic pattern. So you may pre-plan a little bit and decide to start your descent in this area. And how your communication sequence should work is you should say something similar to Pickens County traffic, Cessna 4642 Juliet, 10 miles east, inbound for runway 23, Pickens County traffic. And then when you're 3 miles out, maybe you say Pickens County traffic, Cessna 4642 Juliet, 3 miles south, inbound for runway 23, Pickens County traffic. And then, of course, each leg of the pattern. Now, don't forget, on your downwind, you would want to perform your before landing checklist, which is your memorized glumps check. And then when you're beaming the numbers, you would proceed left to right, carburetor heat as applicable, throttle back to probably about 1,500 RPMs, and put in 10 degrees of flaps. Make sure you're in the white arc first, and then start your little descent down around the pattern. And then usually 20 degrees of flaps, and 30 degrees of flaps, and then 40 degrees of flaps. Now, once you land and you take back off, if you're going to exit the traffic pattern to come back to Greenville downtown, we're going in the direction of the pattern, so the FAR-AIM recommends that you climb about 500 feet first, and then exit at a 45-degree angle, and before you continue to proceed on course. And that way, you get out away from the pattern and continue to climb, so there's no conflict with other traffic. Now, as you work your way back to Greenville, then we need to reverse what we did here. So we would want to get the weather, as we're flying back, we want to get the weather for Greenville, and then call the Greenville Tower and tell them our position, and then enter the pattern as they tell us to. And because it's a control tower airport, they may tell you to enter on the downwind for 19, or they may tell you to enter base for 19, but then you just enter the pattern as the control tower tells you to. Okay, so these are just some of the things, to think about again before you make this journey, that you pre-plan when exactly you want to get your weather and when you want to make your radio calls. And then also, on your journey, what landmarks are you going to see so you know that you're on course properly. And between these two airports, you have that two-lane road that goes between Greenville and Pickens, and then you have the city of Easley, and then you have the city of Pickens, and so on. So be sure to review over your sectional chart and pay attention to any landmarks that you might see along the way. And then there's also this Saluda Lake is up here, and then of course the Greenville downtown city buildings are right there. So pre-plan your altitudes, your communications, any landmarks that you might see along the way.